Hey everyone, welcome back to Smart Architectural Programming, the channel that helps you build smart, structured code one line at a time. So, generally speaking, this is a part of our playlist of Introduction to Java videos on our YouTube channel, as well as it's an accompanying video which is part of our Introduction to Java book, basically. And we're going to dive deeper into one of the most fundamental structures in Java. Arrays. We've discussed arrays a little bit in the introduction video. We've gone over some of the things that we're going to go over here in much more detail there as well. But in this video, we'll be focusing on initialization and declaration of arrays within Java. We'll look into how to declare arrays, multiple ways to initialize them, common mistakes that beginners usually make, and the best practices you should follow. So without further ado, let's get started and focus on the world of Java and arrays. So, declaring arrays is not that difficult of a situation basically for people. So if you want to declare arrays, it's quite simple. As you can see on the screen right now, this is how you declare an array. Use square brackets after the data type and the name of the array follows after. What do I mean by that? Let me highlight that here. So if you notice here, we have these square brackets here. So we have square brackets first. That's the first element of declaration. Then we have the data type, which is an int here, which is the second important element of a declaration. Followed by these two things, we have the name of the array itself, which is the third element of the declaration. So that's how our array in JavaScript is declared, right? Another important aspect that you need to notice here is that it's the same with everything here. It's just the name here, third element, square brackets here, and the data type that array is going to store. Similarly, double is the type of data type, square arrays indicating that it's going to be an array, and temperatures is the name of the array basically, right? So that's how you correctly define an array. But keep in mind, there's an important aspect that you need to consider here at all in most situations. There is an incorrect way you can declare arrays. So the correct way we just showed you, it is int square brackets and then the name of the array, right? Which could be, let's say, it could be numbers, right? Let's just call it num. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of difficult to write with this marker, so bear with me. So then this is the correct way, as we've discussed above. Int square type of data type, then square brackets and the name of the variable. But one of the most common mistakes that are made when you're writing or declaring arrays is we do int here. That's fine, like that's how you do it, right? Data type int. But instead, sometimes people do is that they write the array name next, which is num, and after that they use the square brackets. That might work in different languages, but that is not how you declare arrays in Java, right? So that is something people make common mistake on, so we need to keep that in mind. So now that we've understood how you declare a variable or an array in this case, let's focus on initializing arrays instead. Let's see how we can give them values, and there's a few different ways you can do this, right? We've discussed declaration and initialization in the introduction to arrays video, but we haven't gone into detail of the different methods how you do the initialization, right? So the first method is using a new with a fixed size. So what we tell Java immediately, and this is the most common way you've noticed when we declared arrays in the previous video, was that we always had the value we use new, and then we use the int, and then we data type of the array, and then 5, right? That is the most common method, right? Here's we're telling basically that you have an array which needs to contain 5 integers. So it would give me a second if I can delete that. So what we're telling here, let's try to use a Sharpie here. Oh, it's too long. Yeah. So what we're trying to do here is that int here is telling us this is an integer, right? And 5 here is telling us that it contains 5 elements. Let me see if I can type this out in a better way. Yeah, that's not here. Let's do some. Yeah. So generally speaking, we have we have this here. So we have ints here. We have told it that this is going to contain an integer, and then we're telling it needs to have only 5 spaces reserved for it. And that's what we discussed in the previous video, that if 5 spaces are reserved, only 5 spaces can be used, basically. The second method of initialization in Java for arrays is with values, basically. So instead of writing that, we just simply use values like this. We enumerate the values that are going to be in Java and just list them out like this. All of the values in the array are listed straight from the start, and that's fine as well. And this is one of the most simplest ways you can do initialization. If your array is going to be static or the data needs to be consistent, this is the best way. This is also a shorthand method. Because you're declaring initialization in the same line. It's super clean and commonly used, but again, it's not for dynamic arrays, it's for static array values. So the next is the third method, which is using curly braces, right? And here you notice we have int and name, then we use new, then we use the same notation int, but here notice we didn't declare any value here for reservation, because here in the next place after that we used curly braces to exactly list out what needs to be done. This is helpful when you're passing arrays to methods or need to separate declaration and initialization. So this has some unique use cases that you might find out as you move further along the course. Then there's some incorrect ways you initialize as well, and let's just understand that as well. So you can't specify both the size and values like you see here. So we have the size here, which is 5 values, and then at the same time we have declared the variable value here as well. Because when you do, Java presumes that I need to go to this curly braces, find how many values are in it, and then use those values to reserve space and save those values. You're telling it save 5 spots, it's going to save 5 spots first, and then it goes back and says, hey, I need to save these values. So that's going to lead to a compilation error, as you can see here. Similarly, another thing is that you can't assign values this way that you see here, nums equals to 1, 2, and 3. After we initiated a nums value here, and then we write out the this here value here, we told it create an array of, we need to create an array of integers with the variable called nums, right? After that, we just gave him the 3 values in the curly braces. We can't assign values this way after declaration unless we use new and int, basically. So this is the wrong way to do it, and the correct way would have been nums equals to, after we did this line 3, we cut out line 4 because that is the incorrect way to do it. Then we write nums. It's going to be a little messy, again, bear with me. Nums equals to curly braces, and in that we write I think yeah, we can't do that. Again, I'm doing the same thing that we did above. So instead of that, basically we have nums equals to in new int, as we do when we need to write a new value here, new int. And that's how you enter value within a empty variable, even in an empty variable, because we haven't instantiated the object here. And then we write with curly braces the values that we want to keep, 1, 2, 3. So with these 3 values here, that's how you do it after setting up the variable for that. So the next thing is basically, next we need to understand access and modifying of arrays. It's quite simple. Basically, if we have an array, as you can see on line 1, int numbers, and we have an array there, we print if you want to print the value, we need to print this value here, which is at index value 1. And always remember, arrays and most computer science things are 0 index, which means the first element is 0, second element is 1, and third element is 2. Just remember, it's counted like that in computer science. So when we try to access it using the square notation here, numbers, the name of the variable that contains the array, and then square brackets to tell us which index value we need to use. The output is going to be 20, and as you notice here, 20 is the value at the position 1, right? At the same time, we have numbers 1 equal to 25. We're trying to reassign the value here, so we're telling numbers to using this line here at number 3, we're telling it to go to line number element index at 1 and change its value to 25. And that's why when we print this after this reassignment, you'll find the output being 25 here. And that's basically simply how you use array to basically do stuff here, right? So then we need to basically move on to the next thing here, which is our next slide, which is common pitfalls, right? What are the common pitfalls that happen when you're trying to work with arrays and declaring and initializing them, right? And we're going to understand them immediately, so you're able to easily identify the errors that pop out. So the first is the array index out of bounds exception, right? What happens is we have 3 values here, and they're 0 indexed, as we mentioned before. So 0, 1, and 2, right? When we have these values here and we're trying to access value number 3, value number 3 comes after 2 here, so it needs to have at least 4 elements in this array for value of 3 to exist, and it's not there. So it means there's no value there, and we're trying to access an index value that is out of the bounds of the array, right? So that is not the way to go forward. And the best way to sort this out is always to use numbers, which is the name of, or rather than using numbers, let's just say simply after the name of the variable, just use the dot length notation to find the length of the index of the array if you don't know, to avoid this error in most of the time, right? So use the dot length function to avoid the errors that might pop up with this. With that, let's move on to do a brief teaser of multi-dimensional arrays before we wrap this video up. So there's another way to set up arrays which is using multi-dimensional arrays. Basically, we have int, but we're using, if you notice, the difference thing is we're using 2 square bracket notations here. Why? Because within this variable matrix, we have 1 square bracket indicating 1 array. So this is the first array, and then we have 2 values within that, which is the second array, right? Within that. So this is basically why you need to how you can set up multi-dimensional arrays in Java. But keep in mind, this is just a brief teaser. We'll cover it up in an upcoming video, but just know arrays can go beyond as just a single row. So a quick recap is that we basically used int square bracket numbers to declare an array. We initialized an array with the curly braces or new int function. Then we avoided mixing size and values together, and we always need to check for array lengths before accessing indexes. Pro tip, prefer array list for dynamic size collections, but that's a topic for another day and we'll cover it later. That's it for this walkthrough on declaring and initializing Java values, and a quick round of applause for us to actually get to that point. And if this helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next deep dive in our Introduction to Java series. And if you haven't already grabbed your copy of our book Introduction to Java, available from Smart Architectural Programming on Amazon, links are in the description below. Thanks for watching, and keep building smart and keep coding even smarter.